When it comes to buying a new car, there are a few things that people look for. Performance, reliability, value for money, and of course the age-old question, will it pick up chicks? Now many people spend their money on cool cars in hopes that they'll impress the women. But as any guy with a cool car knows, the cooler the car, the more blokes you'll actually attract. Especially if you drive something like a Tesla, a Chinese vehicle like the limited distance vehicle, or a big truck with a sign on the side that says Gotham City. But there are a few cars that actually manage to package all of these things into one. Vehicles with so much aura that when you drive past someone on the street, they can't help but think to themselves, wow, what a So I've put together a list of my personal top 10 with a few honourable mentions, and as we all know, my opinion is fact. It says it in the dictionary. So without further ado, it's time for me to stop the waffle and let's get into it. Starting with number 10, the Mazda Miata /MX-5. Now I'm specifically talking about the first edition, the NA MX-5, and it's 10th on this list for a reason. It's not exactly the coolest car in stock form. Now while they are a great car to drive, and so perfectly balanced that even Thanos probably owns one, it's what people manage to do to these things that puts it on this list. And the main thing that gives these cars so much aura is the engines that people manage to shoehorn into this tiny little vehicle. The Cummins truck motor, check. 2JZ from a Supra, yep. Hellcat motor, LS, Freddie Flintstone mod, you name it. If you can think of it, it's been done. The Miata /MX-5 has been so renowned for its engine swap capabilities that if you manage to come across a TikTok video of like a cruise ship engine or the engine from the Titanic and go to the comment section, all the top comments will be, will this fit into my Miata? And combine that with the fact that the rolling shell with no engine and gearbox is roughly 800 kilos. Basically anything you manage to shoehorn into one of these cars turns it into a rocket ship on wheels. Anyway, moving on to number 9. Now in number 9 I've chosen the Dacia Sandero. Anyway, in 8th place I've put the G-Wagon. Now theoretically this vehicle should rank further up on this list, but unfortunately due to recent events I've had to push it down a few spots. The G-Wagon originally came out in the 80s and was intended as a rugged off-roader and used in all sorts of military applications. But unfortunately over the years, as Mercedes has become more of a luxury brand and added more touchscreens into all of their vehicles, it's become the official vehicle of the wanker. The Touareg tractor, the Corse seller's chariot, the G-Wagon is living proof that you can polish a turd. Now don't get me wrong, these vehicles are absolutely sick. A massive twin-turbo V8, technology at the wazoo, and a unique look, which in this day and age can only really be compared to the 70 series Land Cruiser, which for some reason is a similar price, but I mean, just look at the difference of the interiors. But my favourite part about the G-Wagon is no matter how much technology and V8 engines they manage to shove into it, they still have to put these little things on the windows to stop them rattling around like they did in the 80s. Now as I'm sure you've all seen, the G-Wagon has been proved to be a beast, off-road and on-road. And with special editions like this 6x6 that I'm sure you've all seen on Top Gear, these things are insanely capable and pretty wicked sick. I think the perfect way to describe the G-Wagon would be like the Fitzroy of cars. At the start it was filled with hard-working, productive individuals, and then as the years went on, it started to fill up with rich wankers and people who care too much about what other people think of them. But if I see a 1987 Mercedes-Benz 300 GD drive past me on the street, it would pique my interest much more than a G63. Anyway, moving on to number 7. Now in 7th place I've put the E36 BMW 3 Series. This is basically a mix between the MX-5 and the AU Falcon. It's a lightweight two-door car with infinite engine swap capabilities just like the MX-5, with the versatility and sometimes the reliability of the AU Falcon. These things are an absolute drift machine, and due to the fact that they're basically the AU Falcon of Europe, they can be modified to dominate at any task you can think of. Whether it's racing, drifting, rally racing, getting flogged the shit out of in the middle of nowhere, flying, you name it. They're also without argument one of the greatest looking cars in the history of the world. The E36 came in 3 distinct lengths: Showa, Grower, and Cho, all of which are perfectly capable at any task you put in front of it. However, the E36 is not perfect. After all, it is a BMW, so they're prone to leak oil, overheat, and have other continuous engine problems. Then of course, just like Teslas of the modern day, the door cards sometimes decide to go on strike, and my favourite unique E30/E46 problem has to be the subframes just falling out. Now I don't know how BMW fixed these from factory, but whatever they did, it probably would have been better off just blue tacking them in place from the get-go. So unfortunately, those few design flaws, combined with the fact that unless you have an M3 or a somewhat rare to find these days 6-cylinder, these things have like 100 horsepower. There's no denying that the BMW E36 is one of the greatest and most iconic vehicles of all time. Now in 6th place there was 3 vehicles that I had to choose from. The Toyota Land Cruiser, the Nissan Patrol, and the Toyota Hilux. 3 great vehicles, however, because they're so similar, I could only really choose one. And that of course has to be the Toyota Hilux. Now I'm sure you've all heard the story of the Nissan Patrol over the Mooney Bridge, and seen the videos of people in Saudi Arabia driving Land Cruisers on 2 wheels, but I think out of the 3, the Hilux takes the cake, and here's why. Neither Top Gear or Whistling Diesel managed to destroy one without using unreasonable force. They've been proven to be waterproof, fireproof, explosion proof, driven up a volcano, ride boat ramp proof, and as far as I'm aware, they're one of the only cars that can basically remain unchanged for 30 years and still top the sales charts. The Hilux has been proven to be one of, if not the most reliable vehicle of all time, and I mean, all you have to do to find out which vehicles are reliable or not is see what the Taliban drive with machine guns mounted on the back. You can jump the Hilux, you can drift it, you can roll it over, literally anything you can think of that you can do in a vehicle can be done in a Hilux. Now put it 6th on this list because at the end of the day, it's just another mass-produced passenger vehicle. I mean, if I was American or something and I saw a Hilux drive past, I'd think, wow, those are rare. But here in Australia, pretty much every second car on the road's a Hilux, so they're not really a head-turner. But you can't deny the fact that the Hilux has aura. Anyway, moving on to number 5. Now in number 5, I decided to put the Mercedes Unimog. And the rest of the vehicles that you'll see on this list aren't exactly passenger vehicles. Now the Unimog is like the G-Wagon on steroids. As far as I'm aware, the Unimog is literally the best off-road vehicle ever made. And as far as I'm aware, most of them, if not all of them, came factory with portal axles, front and rear diff lockers, and most commonly 50-inch tyres. Now what that means is this thing can basically go anywhere. For example, most Unimogs used here in Australia that I see on social media are owned by off-road vehicle recovery service companies. So basically, if your game-changing 79 Series Land Cruiser gets stuck in a bog somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you call up a company and they'll send out a Unimog to come rescue you. Now back in the day, Unimogs used to be fairly cheap, and the best way to buy them was from the ex-army auctions, because just like the G-Wagon, the Australian Army used Unimogs as one of their vehicles. But I think these days it's less common to see them on the auctions, but they do pop up on Facebook Marketplace quite often, usually for between 30 to 60 grand, depending on how much is done to it, and sometimes even more. But not only are these things the most capable vehicle of all time, full stop, they also look fucking sick. They are absolutely huge, and you need a truck license just to drive one. I'd love to own my own Unimog one day and kit it out to live in and drive around the country. However, I don't have a truck license or enough money to buy one at the moment. If you guys like and subscribe and help me get to 200,000 subscribers, maybe one day I will. Anyway, moving on to number 4. Now this vehicle is so small that it'll probably fit in the driver's seat of the Unimog, and that of course is the Peel P50, the smallest road legal car ever made. Now yes, this is the polar opposite from the vehicle we just talked about, but if you see one of these driving down the street, there's no chance that you won't turn your head to look at it. I mean, just look at the reception that this one got at Summonats. The Peel P50 was manufactured for a short amount of time in the 1960s, making them very rare. And then about 40 years later, when Top Gear made this film on it, the global popularity absolutely skyrocketed. Now from what I've heard, there's only 3 in Australia, and one guy owns 2 of them, and they're not cheap whatsoever, despite the fact that it's basically a Milo tin with a motorbike engine. The last one sold in October of 2025 for $85,000 after being found in a garage in Queensland. I mean, look at the size of this thing compared to the Unimog, and they're literally double if not more than the price. But yeah, despite being a silly little car, I reckon the Peel P50 is a perfect fit for number 4. Anyway, moving on to number 3. Now in 3rd spot we've got the infamous Sports Lorry. The Sports Lorry is a custom built one-of-one Isuzu TX truck. It also came with Mitsubishi axles, a state-of-the-art sound system, and this yellow comb. Now with a straight 6, rear-wheel drive, and a twin exhaust, it's been compared to the BMW E36 by legendary motoring journalist Jeremy Clarkson.
BMW E36 and this, almost identical.
Now I would have put the Sports Lorry further up on this list, but unfortunately the paint was a little bit shit. But of course later on it was painted white and given 2 blue racing stripes, but not of course before it was reversed into by Richard Hammond.
Hammond, you idiot! You reversed into the Sports Lorry!
Now the sports lorry also came in convertible form and windscreenless form, giving the driver many different configurations to choose from. And it also had a rear tipping tray, which was very useful when it came to doing work. The sports lorry was a sports car, work vehicle, motorhome, and was driven across Burma into Thailand, and was even used to build a bridge over the River Kok. Now unfortunately, the sports lorry is a very rare one-of-one vehicle, so me and you will never be able to own one, but for that reason and all the others I just mentioned, I think it's a fitting vehicle for number 3 on this list. Anyway, moving on to number 2, the Killdozer. Custom built between 2002 and 2004 by Marvin Heemeyer, the Killdozer was built for one thing: maximum destruction. Heemeyer used a Komatsu D355A bulldozer, which of course he fitted with some custom side skirts made out of steel and concrete. The Killdozer was used to more or less demolish the town of Granby, Colorado on the 4th of June 2004. And while I won't go into the story in this video, it is quite an interesting one, so I recommend you guys to check it out. Now the best thing about the Killdozer Rampage is that most of it was filmed and broadcast on TV. So on the 4th of June 2004, you could watch live as the Killdozer destroyed this whole little town, and it's still available on YouTube today. Now after destroying multiple buildings linked to people that had done Marvin wrong in the past, including the town hall of the town, and shit-mixing this scraper that tried to stop him, well unfortunately that scraper managed to catch up with him again a little bit later, blocking him in, meaning the only way he could go was forward, resulting in the Killdozer driving into the basement of a property they didn't realise was there, ending his rampage, and with it his life. Rest in peace to Marvin Heemeyer. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things. And on a side note, I'm sure you've probably already seen it, but the YouTuber Whistling Diesel has built his own replica. Now I highly encourage you guys to check out the story of the Killdozer and Marvin Heemeyer. It's very interesting, and I think that the Killdozer is a perfect candidate for spot number 2 on this list. Now before we get into number 1, I've got to get into some honourable mentions. Now first off, we've got the Nissan Patrol for doing 480 k's an hour over the Mooney Bridge. The Toyota Land Cruiser, as I mentioned before, the Morris Moke for being cool, the golf cart, the motorized Esky, the Mitsubishi Delica, and well, I don't really know what else. Anyway, time to get into number 1. Some of you may have guessed it, but that vehicle is of course the AU Falcon. First released in 1998, the AU Falcon changed the game. It came in sedan, wagon, and ute form, but you didn't even need the ute, because the AU Falcon was just so capable in any form that any AU Falcon can do any job you'll ever need a car to do. The speed of the AU Falcon is absolutely unmatched. As you can see here, the AU XR8 ute absolutely walks this land speed record machine. The AU Falcon has an unlimited towing capacity, the utes literally have an unlimited carrying capacity, and if you drive one of these down the street, you'll have women chasing you for miles on end. Whether it's drifting, racing, jumping, flying, boating, you name it, the AU Falcon can do it all. Now I personally completed the set and have all 3 configurations, so I think the AU Falcon is of course a deserving number 1 spot for this list. So if you agree, let me know by pressing the subscribe button, and if you disagree, let me know by pressing it 3 times, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy one of these too. I'll see you guys in the next one.